Hello, dear viewers. Thank you for joining us for an additional show of The Solution, where we're verifying Baal HaSulam's social and economic doctrine. We have Dr. Leibman with us. Hello, everyone. We have Igor Likvornov, an economic consultant. We want to remind you that you can download all our shows on our site, www.kab.coil. Rav Leitman, in the previous shows, we discussed subjects like the elites, the economic motivations, and we talked about the transition period and the advanced state of the economy. Today, we want to focus on the main subject that economy is based on, and that's money. The subject of money, we're going to divide into a few shows for the transition phases and the more advanced phases. Today, we want to focus on the more advanced phase, the altruistic economy, after the transition phase. And the first question we have is, based on the wisdom of Kabbalah, first of all, what's the role of money? Money is the equivalent of something, of a person's effort, how much he invests, how much he contributes to society, and in accordance, how much he's allowed to get from society. It's all according to calculations, just like the whole world advances according to Din v'Rachamim. Here also in the middle line, according to the weights that are balanced, this is how we weigh a person, to the extent that he contributes and how much time, and in accordance with his abilities, which is not under our control. If he, God forbid, is disabled or is not so developed emotionally, physically, mentally, in accordance with that, society has to take into consideration, be considerate of his situation. Just like any law, he needs to receive everything he needs. That's in the law. We have to make some correction on the state that a person received from nature, maybe from education, from all kinds of conditions, something that's not dependent on him in the meantime. Maybe he can improve himself, but things that are not dependent on him, and give each and every person a standard of living, a respectful standard of living. So money is equal, it's the equivalent of what he himself can contribute to society. If we're talking about an altruistic society where he's working out of his desire to contribute to society, he sees this as truly his profit in contributing to society and not profit from receiving from society, then actually in that, the more we advance in integral education, we are less and less. We need to make calculations, because he'll really receive what he needs for life, for his regular life, to maintain himself. And his whole life is to be contributing to society. So money is an aspect, like we say, a screen. To the extent that he acquires for himself the ability to resist his ego and overcome it by contributing to society, and less we'll need to give him some kind of frameworks and guarding him, etc. But money will continue to be the system in the corrected society. Money is a way to measure his contribution, and in accordance with that, the extent that he's allowed to can receive from the society. I don't know what kind of money it will be, though. I don't know how it will be expressed, but it's always based on a person's effort until the world is completely corrected in a manner that each and everyone will contribute with their entire heart, and that's how they'll see their life, their perfect life, successful life. In continuation of that, we really want to ask, how do you see the use of this means called money in a corrected society? They'll have to use it. Let's say it'll be like money today. What difference does it make if it's this currency, or if it's written down, if each one has some electronic gadget? It doesn't matter how they count the qualities, what he contributed and what he took. But of course, that each and every one will have to make a calculation, like we learn. He'll have to calculate with the general spiritual system. Also, in accordance with that, we'll have to build a person's relationship with the corporeal system. Exactly in accordance with that. We're learning from the same doctrine. There's a host. Anyone can come work, and anyone can buy at the supermarket because a person has to feed himself. We have to supply him with all the conditions for the future. In other words, after we supply him with education and support, social support, we supply him with a workplace, a place to make an effort where he can contribute according to his natural abilities. He'll screw into the society properly, and the profit, we start to calculate his salary. First of all, a person has to supply a person with minimal conditions. That's what they always did. Somehow the social system works on that. And afterward, it's all according to how we calculate it for each and every person. How much he gives and how much he receives. The money is the equivalent of these two things, receiving and giving. They have to be in balance. Why do we need money in this corrected system? Shouldn't everyone just give the maximum that they can? Why do we even need to measure it? I'm talking about a situation where we're still in the phase of correction. The ego is growing all the time. Our ego is developing. It's not that we're like animals and that after 2 or 3 works, the animal is a big animal and worthy of existing alone, let's say, or after half an hour, after half a year. A person grows for the first 20 years, and then his whole life, his ego is pulling him to all kinds of directions that we have no control over. Therefore, we need to actually all the time set up an environment around people that will educate them and also limit him and give him each time a new, reformat him, reshape him, and give him a new shape of the correct use of his ego that is constantly growing. And this is how it will be until the end of correction. What is the end of correction? That we corrected our entire ego that we have in some hidden place inside of us. So we'll get all these urges out, these egoistic urges to use everyone for my self-pleasure. And I corrected them in order to bestow to society and not to myself. And then in that, I am a corrected person. So there's no need to guard me. It's not effective or beneficial or relevant. Only on this condition. So there's people that will advance towards it more, and there's others that will advance towards it less until we reach the general end of correction. We need to guard each person in a certain way. I mean money, that's what I'm talking about. That a person will be guarded, a person will know this I gave and this I'm receiving. Maybe we'll reach a situation like this in a process, that a person himself will be interested in knowing how much I can waste, because I don't want to be the one receiving, I want to be giving, I want to be contributing. So he's interested himself to know. Even if you give him to receive from society without any limit, he'll say, no, I need to measure myself. I have a bigger account. I have an account to contribute to society. I want to contribute to society more than to myself, because if I take more from society, I'm harming myself and I'm harming society. I'm not capable of being in that situation. And then he himself demands that he'll have some kinds of limits. He's interested like a child that blows up, and he's interested in being guarded. Otherwise, he can do silly stuff and harm himself and other people. So there's something new and interesting that we're talking about here, that in a society, that if we call it a spiritual society, there's a system, a measurement system, let's call it money, through which I can see how a person is advancing or not advancing towards that main system. Bala Sulam says there'll be a special system, certain people that will be counting how much a person gives and how much he deserves to receive, and a person will agree to it in advance because it will guard him that he'll head towards the correction. Because at the end of the day, we have to reach a certain spiritual level that we want to all be in giving and bestowal. And in the altruistic society, the perfect altruistic society, I'm interested in being directed because I can't do it myself. I always make mistakes. My ego is always breaking out. Sometimes I'm in a sense. We're not talking about a society that reached the top. That's completely altruistic. So I'm interested in the correction of my deviances, and I hand myself over to society and say, treat me. I'm always just correcting myself to be in adhesion with the environment, to influence me and determine how I should behave. How does money become the means of measuring bestowal? I don't know if it will be as money. I think, like Bala Sulam wrote, there will be special people. That's what he wrote in simple words, that will go from home to home and check what each person's missing, and in accordance with that, they'll fill whatever a person needs, each and every family. You really spoke about a math equation that everybody makes, how much he gives and how much he takes. That's what each person has to do even now. In an uncorrected society, if we want to reach say a capitalistic society, what does it say? Each person deserves to advance in life wherever they want to. Each person can be the greatest, the richest, the most in control, but according to the laws. What are the laws? To the extent that you try, the more that you try in your life, with all your attributes, please succeed. Then you deserve to receive. In other words, this is actually there in an egoistic society. And if you receive more, then you're a thief. And if you receive less, then you're like a compromiser. That's the aspect of money, to check how much you're receiving and giving also today. That's the principle. That should be the principle. Therefore, the problem is only in how much we're not arranging these laws, how much we're guarding people. If we were watching them, then we'd be able to advance more and more. The problem is that our ego is always pushing us to receive more from society, and whoever is more successful is proud of it. Look what I did. Look how much money I made, even though all this money may come from not my contributing, but I maybe did some stock exchange game or something. It doesn't come from actual work toward the society. Not that I really contributed to society, but I just did like a spin. We know how most of the money comes from today. An investment company you have in every corner. Why? It's things that they work against that principle that a person has to actually give and donate and invest for the good of society, and in accordance with that, receive. Here we're already in a lying situation, a false situation. So money, it won't disappear. It will always be din v'rachamim. And each and every society will feel how it's rising in a balanced way between these two things, din and rachamim, judgment and empathy. Can you explain how an individual in this society will make this calculation that you describe now of reception and giving? It's simple, like we spoke of it many times. To receive, I need just what I need for my life to exist in a rational manner. Apartment, car, vacation, health, pension, all these things a person needs today that he needs to receive, that he deserves based on the standard of living and society. We can add more and more to the health basket and also food. And it all has to be determined according to society, but all this will be determined by society in an equal manner between everyone, relatively equal, because if you're a vegetarian and I'm not, it doesn't matter. Or you're more inclined to live a certain lifestyle than me, that's fine. But at the end of the day, everyone needs an equal standard of living without any connection to how he contributed. If he contributed according to his abilities, according to his place, what was placed before him from his heart, then he deserves to receive like everyone else. And society has to make sure that everyone has more or less the same standard of living and relatively the same investment, according to each person's abilities. A person who is in spirituality has a screen. He makes a calculation with money. How does he make this calculation? We want to, again, talk about money as an aspect of spirituality. In spirituality, it does as much as he can to contribute to the environment, because through the environment, he receives revelation. He receives the spiritual stage. The spiritual stage that he receives builds in him the stage of a man, of a human. But what do we do all together? We eat, we sleep, we dress ourselves. You see all these big houses and these jungles. Instead of us being in the forest, now we live as animals in this forest. It's the same thing. We just live for our body. If we're talking about the soul, we have to live to correct it, to fill it, to advance it, this part that's hidden in us. And if I look after this, then my life here becomes just a small means, that I fill my body in all kinds of ways that it needs: health, food, sleep, vacation, etc. I give my animal, like we give an animal what it needs to do its work. And what I develop in myself, what can develop from me is the level of man. There I can always grow. With my animal part of me, I can't grow. That's me. Then the person that's always concerned with, and it's dependent on education, that he's always concerned with growing the man inside him, meaning the part that's similar to the Creator in bestowal, giving to society. And in that, he begins to feel that he's similar to the Creator and begins to feel that he becomes close to the Creator from that he's receiving the upper light from this giving to society. Then from the upper force, he feels the special filling called his soul. And in accordance with that, if he's only toward that, then his money, it's his screen. To the extent that he truly contributes to the environment, because the contribution to the environment, giving, working in the environment, that is actually his thing, and the payment comes from the upper light. Is it possible to be a situation where a person is balanced in a spiritual manner and in an overdraft in corporality, that he got too much? I mean that in the spiritual system, he's balanced out from the screen-wise, and in this world, he's unbalanced. No. I think that the society itself will make sure that on the one hand, through education and also through supplying, that a person will be supplied, will be satisfied from receiving and not demand more. I imagine there will be all kinds of calculations through the corrections, but in a society that's already reached a corrected state, there can't be things like that. A person through education reaches a state where he's like Chafetz Chesed, meaning he doesn't really feel his body. That his whole emphasis is on the development of his soul. And then he gives his body, the creature, whatever it needs. Like we see, you won't give cake to a horse. You have to give him healthy food that he needs. Food, the seeds, the wheat, the water, but nothing else, because he doesn't need it. The same thing with our body. Today we're exaggerated, and there's lots of people making money off of it, but actually our habit has to be just the opposite. You mentioned the overdoing it, and I want to ask, the money systems, like saying buying with credit, that's one of the phenomena of the overspending today. In a society that's living in a balanced manner, will there be things like that? No. Why? A person receives what he needs. And why does he need? Why should he owe anything? I don't understand it. If I invest and if the society is corrected and it has the ability to supply everyone, then how can there be a situation where only on the condition that I'm small, that I'm learning, that I'm not really contributing to the society yet, that I'm in some kind of system of preparation, of katnut, of small state, then I get the supply even though I'm not contributing, just like little kids. Students or adults. So we take them into consideration as if they are contributing. It's always like that. It's maybe a big part of society. Usually it's like 50,000 people. Out of 50,000 people, 2 are working and 3 at least are kids, or even more. 4 or 5. We're talking about the traditional roles of money, and we're talking about credit, and there are positive things that we see that this system brought. For example, today people can buy an apartment, and nobody has all the money they have. They can take credit, the same to do with savings and loans. We're talking about tools. Until they disconnected money from gold in 1971, they had positive aspects, the credit. So our question is also, in light of these positive things, these positive attributes of credit, won't there be a place in some manner to integrate it in a more advanced society? If you're talking about it like that, then of course, the young people who are starting their lives, of course, they need to get everything a regular person needs, even though they didn't contribute yet. But I'm sure it will be from the side of society in a manner that everyone receives. And that's it. A person, a young person, gets married, kids, everything. He receives what he deserves for where he is right now. We're not talking about the fact that he'll need to give back these things to society. But that's how it is. You're married, you have kids, you deserve to receive what every family receives. It doesn't mean that there's he owes money, he has it hanging over his head, but because you are where you are and you're doing what you need to do, then you deserve to receive everything. An apartment could be a pension, everything. A car. Society looks after a young person and an old person in the same manner. It doesn't matter. Everyone equal. If we're talking about a situation where society has to supply, then it doesn't come from credit that you owe something. But we're willing to give the creature part of us, the living part of us, everything this creature needs. That you take some horse and you put him in a place next to your house to use it later, then you don't give him some condition. I'm giving you this and this and this and later. But you know that from tomorrow you're working with him and you work with him like you have to. There's not really calculations like that. I don't think that it will be as credit and a person has to give it back and he gives back less or he gives back more. We understand that now he's coming in like a part, an active part in the general society. But still, society will demand something from that person, that he participates with everyone, and whatever he deserves, just like any member in society. So I understand systems like interest won't exist. Interest is forbidden. Why, if the economy is built only to supply us with our healthy, normal, materialistic needs, then why should a person, the only way it should develop is according to the growth of the population. What do we need? If we have 10 horses, if we have 100 horses, we need food for 100 horses. But not that now we need to supply them with, that we have surplus. Instead of giving them wheat, we should give them juice. Okay, you want to ask? Yes. Altogether, this interest business, it's a middleman, actually. I'm not using it now. There's no such thing in a corrected society. If there's equality, then there's no surplus. How can you have surplus? You give that directly to society, but in spirituality, there's this process that you're helping others happily. That's called giving. How is it possible that I have and I don't give to others? Or that I give so that they give back more to me? Is that called giving in a corrected society? No, but there's a concept that you give and you expect me to change to a certain direction. You expect that I, at the end of the day, doesn't matter how we measure. I'm sorry, that's not correct. We give, let's say a young couple, let's say he's just got married. He got married a few years ago. He deserves to get everything that you get in your family and that I get in my family. He deserves as well. Now you can say, how do I know that this person will give back what we're investing in him? That's our problem. That's the problem in the education system. You can't come to him with claims, why aren't you investing in society? He'll say, me? I was born, I was among you, just like you educated me, now I'm acting. And like you pressured me from the environment through all kinds of factors, that's how I behave. Because a person is the result of the environment. He will give you an answer like that, and you'll be like, there's no thing to demand from him in return. It depends on the extent that you invest in him. According to your investment, that's what you'll receive. You need to demand from yourself to the extent that you educate him. We're talking here about a system. There's a problem. It's a very tough and demanding system. It's a very exacting system that treats each individual keeps everyone on a tight leash. It looks like it's a bit loose, the rope. Why? If you're in an environment that's always giving you examples and education and brainwashing you, that you have to be only toward the society, and that your whole corporal life is only to supply fuel to your body that will work toward the environment, then you don't have here where to escape to. All our escape nowadays is how much less to contribute and to receive more and screw everyone. And here it's different. Society will have to build such huge educational systems and examples that you'll always be guarding, and you'll want to be in it. And your ego that's growing and changing in accordance with that, each time you'll get into new corrections. But at the end of the day, if we're talking about the big environment, that there's nowhere to escape from it, then the society is responsible for your behavior. It can't demand from you, give back to us. You can say, treat me and I'll give back to you. Who am I at the end of the day? I'm just, you did this, so I behave like that. Do different work on me, I'll behave in a different way. What am I? That's how a person is influenced by society. He's just raw material. This is where I'm free. Where I'm free, they can't come in and demand to me. They can't come to me and say, you have to eat a kilo of bread a day, because according to my body, I'm not capable, or I can't, or it's not enough, etc. But what my body needs, I fill, and everything else is my soul. My soul is for you. So we see in light of this show that money is a very important factor in this process. But again, the accounting, I don't know how to say it. There's an accounting, but if we call it money, it's a screen that we're building. The screen is a cover, a mirse, that I receive from myself only what I need to exist, and therefore it's not forbidden. It is called basic necessities, hechachiyut, and everything else I contribute to the environment. Can we, through this same system, create a better altruistic economy? Today we see money causing problems, disturbing. When those same screens connect to one great screen, then we'll receive the upper light that will fill us. And to the extent of the connection between us, that is our investment, based on our investment and our reception of our salary, our general salary. And from a corporal point of view, after we verify what's for the good of a person, what it needs to be like a healthy person, just like the horse. That's what we need to say the person, because at the end of the day, we're creatures. Therefore, our goal is to bring a person the optimal corporal life, rational, that it will be healthy and good for his body, and his soul is another kind of treatment, another system. They're developed without any limitations whatsoever. There's no connection between these two processes. I have to build, on the one hand, screens and spirituality, and on the other hand, balance my corporal life somehow. If we are in a process of development, then of course we have to bring a person in accordance with that to corporal level of necessity, more and more in accordance with a person. If I once I lived in Rehovot, I had a 2-floor penthouse. Then I started learning the wisdom of Kabbalah with my teacher, and I moved into an apartment of 3 rooms in Bnei Brak, a tiny apartment in the Shikunim. It's very hard to describe what kind of transition it was, etc., etc. I didn't feel that I fell to some situation, because I was all consumed with it. I was in his little room, and the teacher's room. I just wanted to be next to him. Then I came home, I went to sleep, I got up, and I went to him again. It all depends on your necessity, what a person asks for. And therefore, that's actually the education. the more that we advance a person to situations that are more advanced, he won't pay attention to his corporality anymore than a horse paying attention if he has what he needs, or good water, good seeds. You wash him, you clean him, you look after him, and he's happy, the horse. I want us to go back to the subject of money in the corporal aspect. How do you see its change by the desire becoming rounder? Corporal money, I think it is now, with the help of the crisis that we've entered, we just call it a crisis. It's not really a crisis. We're going into a new stage of development that is development more goal-orientated, where our ego stops growing, it's becoming rounder, and people are more asking about the essence of life, and they want to develop towards that. They want to know what for, what do I need it for? If in the past I just wanted to live and then I wanted to live well, then I wanted to live in happiness and respect and good, now I want to know why to live at all. That's the desperation we see in the world, the drug abuse. People are searching for why do we exist? Why are we living? Our soul, our brain, our demand to feel life has developed more. Then we need to know what all this is for. Either I'm suffering or I'm enjoying life, it doesn't matter, but we see, according to the fashion, you see the young generation, they're just shmatas, they're thrown aside. Once upon a time, each and everything, I remember my age, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, you just go out to the street, you have to put on a tie and a suit and shoes. Everything has to be matching, and women, forget about it. They killed themselves with all that stuff. Today, still a little bit, but now this young generation is not capable. For them, it's other values altogether. We want something inside. We want something that's not that. It's a transition, but actually it signs that we're attracted to another value, the value of the essence of life. For what? Why? In other words, I don't really care to be in the eyes of society, how I look according to the fashion or whatever, but rather I'm empty on the inside. I have to know more about myself and in general what's happening here. I don't need the space program. I don't need all these great achievements in this world. I need to know if it's even worth it at all. We see the suicide levels. These are very dramatic situations, especially in populations where people are wealthy and successful, apparently. This means that we see that a person is going into his cell phone, all kinds of communication devices, and he doesn't need anything. He has jeans, he has running shoes, he has some shirt, that's enough. Food, okay, he has Burger Ranch, he has Coke, or other things. But actually, the young generation is expressing concern. Still, we don't feel it so much yet, but he is expressing concern for a more internal development. Therefore, it's not a crisis. It's a change for life. And those that are still in the previous generation that wanted to build the world like a cow and milk it without any limitation, They feel that this cow is already stopping to be loyal, excuse me, to be loyal to the... So how does this whole process connect to the use of money? Money is losing its value because money is losing its value from two sides. On the one hand, youngsters don't need a lot of more and more money, even though they're trying to entice them with all kinds of things. And we built this middle class, but now it's being ruined. And we disconnected money from gold. And we caused money having no value on the one hand. On the other hand, our ego is becoming more enlarged. So the value of all the materialistic things is going down, and you won't be able to push a person to have this consuming urge like he had before. It's also more impossible to continue. $500 billion are wasted on advertising every year. To feed people and supply them with everything they need, we just need $50 billion, 10 times less than what we waste on advertising. Do you think we can continue in this manner? Of course, we're advancing towards the Arab Spring riots and the American riots, etc. On the other hand, we see a process that with the ascent of the desire, there's even more consumerism. People are increasing their demands. They don't understand that it's growing by quality and rather than quantity. It's growing in quality, the ego. It's changing in quality more than quantity. Because we are advancing also inside our ego in stages of inanimate, animate, vegetative, the ego inside a person. That in the past, a person was in his ego, inanimate, so vegetative. He wanted a little bit more living, animate. He did all kinds of business. Now we're going into the speaking stage of a person. That's a stage that demands quality, spiritual life. He needs to know why, what for. Otherwise, what should I do it for? And people are committing suicide. If I'm not receiving the satisfaction for this desire growing in me, don't give me millions. What will it give me? I see what's happening with these millions. In 1 second, they close down banks, and you have nothing from it. And more and more. The desire that's changing, you can't do anything with it. Because if I want water and you're advertising from morning to night that I need some kind of whiskey, I don't want whiskey, I want water. And it won't help your advertising that you made whiskey and you want to sell it to me so that you want to have money. That's why you're advertising to me, but I want water. I don't care about money and I don't care about whiskey. We're not on the same wave. We're not on the same frequency. That's why I see advertising they're still capable of reaching some statistic, but it's $500 billion a year advertising. That's how much it costs. I don't know what else can be. It's truly, I think it equals how much we waste on ammunition around the world. And also we're not capable of developing from that anymore. Therefore, according to the data and economy and the financial system, we're in a descent. Why aren't we capable? Just explain one thing to me. Where did the growth numbers come from? With you guys, the economists. Usually it's because there's less consumption. Why does it go down? There's additional problems of unemployment. That's not important. The banks go to the bank, they'll give you more, and that's not a problem. The problem is that I don't even want it. I don't need it. There's like disregard already for all this. We're not talking about bourgeois places with their mentality like Germany. We can feel it. If a person really wanted to develop materially, like once upon a time, then we wouldn't have a crisis in this manner. I don't know how to put it. A big part of the crisis is from our desire changing, and not that we don't have the ability, that we have the buying ability that we had before. No. No, I don't see it like that. At least I see it like this. Maybe it's not seen yet to people, but that's how it is. Because look, people still don't think that it's really a crisis, that it's not passing, that it's a new phase in the human development, that it's coming and going. I hear what people say. Until they grasp that, until they understand that we're really in a new stage, then this stage will really control, just from this act, that it will control us and force us to relate to life differently. Only then they'll accept it in some manner. Is money going to disappear in the more advanced stages of correction? Of course. What will replace it? We spoke. If I give a person everything, including education, then actually he begins to exist according to the new format. Then what do I need money for? He contributes his whole life to society. In that he receives a salary from the upper light that fills him. I don't need to be a policeman over him. I don't need to check how much he's contributing or not. I just need to be concerned. Let's say our friend. We gave him education, and he'll understand and feel already with his investment through the environment to the upper force. He's receiving from the upper force through the environment, filling for his soul. Eternal life, eternal spirituality. That's the true salary, and in that he can advance without any limit. And then what's he demanding from us? He's demanding only one thing. What do you need? To supply me with the simple corporal life, so that I'll exist. And that's what we need to be concerned with. So we organize a society, an environment that, apart from the educational system, that we organize, where we organize that one spiritual soul where we receive filling from above. We need to maintain a society in this world that will supply all of us with what our body needs. And what allows us to have commerce and give and take in society? We won't need it, because everyone's working to receive the upper salary. I'll give whatever I need to society, because the more that I invest in society, I get a salary from above. So please allow me to be in something, to give something, to contribute something, because in exchange of that, I get the upper light. That is actually my salary. And then no one needs to watch over other people. If you're talking about a really corrected society, then money is the general screen where we each contribute to each other, and in that there's no limit. You don't need to contribute with your hands and feet. You do it with your correction, with your inside effort. So nobody needs to watch over anyone else, just the opposite. A person will always be in this inner stress. How much more how else can I contribute to others? So in that way, contribute to the Creator and reveal the means for His revelation. That's a result of education. But what kind of watching over does there have to be? Supervision. The moment you give a person a knowledge and feeling that he will receive this upper salary in exchange for his work, he's through the society, he's in a direct calculation with the Creator. Then you don't have to look after him. He has a dialogue with the Creator through his environment. The more he's attracted and contributing and integrated in the society as one man with one heart, and then the upper light influences him, then he receives the revelation of the upper world, of the eternal life. It fills his soul. What else has to be? What other motivation do you need more than that? But in a spiritual system, we know that there's very precise accounts. There, you go into those accounts, but not with this environment, that we need guards and policemen. There it says, police and guards make at all your gates, that you yourself should be interested in it, but it's you doing it. You're doing it, not that society is doing it to you. But if I can give Guy, in a spiritual level, we know that this has happened, that there was a breaking. If I can give him more than what he can be satisfied with, then he won't accept it. The Shvira didn't come because the vessel didn't want to receive more. Like with the first man, with the breaking of the vessels in Olam, in spirituality, where we're going up to Gmar Tikkun, that doesn't happen. We raise the holiness, not less. So there's no necessity for money as something for measurement. A person himself is interested with all his might. He's developing, first of all, a system called fear. Not fear of not receiving more than I deserve, but the opposite. Is there any ability to give? That's the true fearfulness. He transitions to a different lifestyle, different of bestowal, of giving. We also wanted to know how, for example, we'll have a commerce between countries, assuming that there will be commerce. If there's no money, it's a bit of a problem. There also won't be commerce, and there won't be between countries. We'll all be as one family. We're all connected together. How can there be something between the countries? If we all come from that same Babylon, that same will to receive, now we're also beginning to feel that we're connected to one another. We're beginning to feel that we're all equal. You see, an African became the President of the United States. This is how much the world has changed in the last 50 years. I saw examples in America that you could go, that those people weren't allowed in certain places, the Negroes, and look what's happening today. He became the most important person in the society. You understand what a development pace we have here toward equality? And of course, all the borders. If there's no fear and there's general giving and there's an inclination toward general connection and the integral education in the whole world, then what borders? They become cancelled way before that. I have a question maybe to conclude. We will have more shows about this, but what is a united world in the altruistic economy. I don't know if we can talk about the materialistic economy, but maybe the spiritual economy, to the extent that we can fill our spiritual vessel that is called one soul, where we all connect in our desires to be similar to the Creator in mutual bestowal, where we discover how we're similar to Him. This system is called the person that is similar to the upper force through mutual bestowal, where we're actually similar to Him. This is how we discover in the bestowal between us the bestowal toward Him. We are prepared to be Shekhinah, the place where He's revealed as Shochen, lying there. This is what's we want to fill our vessels with His presence, with the power of the light, and our materialness. It's at a level where each person has to receive to exist, doesn't feel any need for anything else. They don't have any head for that. They're not concerned with that. Until the final connection between us to one single system, we'll begin to see suddenly that all the levels, inanimate, animate, vegetative, and our whole body begin to integrate inside this supreme feeling and disappear in it. Then we stop feeling bodies. And this entire world starts becoming part of the upper world, becomes the world of forces. We begin to see forces that are working in the world. And these forces shape in us this whole material world. One last question to conclude. From a corporal necessity aspect, you once spoke about canceling borders, a single currency. We still have to have some kind of commerce. Those are advanced stages, but towards those stages, we already passed them before the world disappears, and yes, we'll have them, and we'll use money, or then even at that time, I think it'll be like there'll be a notebook, how much each person contributes, money or some electronic way to keep track of it, but a person will gradually be more and more interested in that because it'll guard him from taking too much from society, more than he contributes. Unfortunately, we have to conclude this program. Dear viewers, thank you for being with us on another show of The Solution. We want to remind you that you can download all the shows on our site, www.kab.coil. Thank you, Rav Leitman. Thank you, Igor. And until next time, thank you and so long.